If you're a fan of role-playing games, you've probably played one Chris Avellone has worked on. There's something unique about each of them, whether it's the deep and mature narrative of Planescape Torment, the way Knights of the Old Republic 2 deconstructs the light side and dark side morality of Star Wars, or the fact that South Park: The Stick of Truth was actually a really good South Park game. Now, Avellone is working with In Exile Entertainment on Wasteland 2. It's the sequel to the original post-apocalyptic RPG, which later inspired the Fallout series. A $3 million Kickstarter campaign means the team can bring back Wasteland 1's old-school role-playing with a modern presentation. But what does it actually mean to write and design for the sequel to a 16-year-old game? According to Avellone, it's all about making the story more reactive.
I think what makes Wasteland 2 different than other RPGs I've worked on is the sheer amount of reactivity chains, because that was such a big part of Wasteland 1. A lot of the reactivity chains for Wasteland 2 have at least 3 steps. When in other RPGs, I think there might have been one period of reactivity to it, or like one choke point where someone reacts to it. But in Wasteland 2, they made a really conscious effort to keep those chains going for a very, very long time, some of which you don't see for many, many hours into the game, which I think is great. At that point, you're pretty much committed to it and married to it, which I think makes for a much more enriching reactive experience personally. So for example, you can meet some bartender called Gorgonovich in the Rail Nomads. You can buy snake squeezings from him. You can learn that they're pretty crappy quality. We don't tell the player, hey, go back and talk to this guy and get pissed at him. But we assume that some players would probably want to. They're like, you know what, I spent money on this guy fucking robbed me. I'm gonna go back and confront him on this, even though no one's expressly telling me to do it. And then once that happens, because it makes logical sense that you would do that, as a player, like, I mean, you know, I was playing a D&D game, I'd go find that guy and beat him up. And then, having a quest sparked off of that, usually it's things that players would logically think to do that would actually keep the reactivity chain going in some instances, and other times they'll specifically reference the quest giver or the specific event, and that way the player goes, oh, because I did that, I understand why this is occurring.
You're free to go around and beat people up because Wasteland 2 doesn't discriminate against how you want to build your character.
If you're allowing the player to build their character a certain way, you have to respect their choices and make sure those choices are viable, because if you give the player a bunch of options to build a character that ends up being overall terrible and they're having an incredibly crappy time playing the game, well, then that's on the designer's side, not on the player's side. So what you want to do is, if you're giving the player the option to build their character this way, whether they're like a smart ass, a kiss ass, a hard ass, a combat guy, a stealth guy, you want to make sure there's cool things for each of those types of characters to do, and moments where they shine, where they're like, you know what, because I was a smart ass in this situation, I feel really good that I outwitted that NPC or found that solution that probably very few other people would have done because they didn't specialize in the skill that I did.
And if outsmarting people isn't your thing, don't worry. The harsh environment of Wasteland 2 facilitates violence in a way that few other RPGs do.
Sometimes what games will do is they want to preserve all quest givers and like make them invulnerable. So if you actually do try and attack them, like there's no way to kill them, for example, which feels really weird, especially if you do want to be a violent character and it's a very violent world. And one of the design mandates for Wasteland 2 was that you actually just can kill everybody if you want to. So no one's really immortal or untouchable.
Killing everybody will have its consequences, but not in the form of good or evil points. This avoids a key problem that Avellone experienced on Knights of the Old Republic 2.
It was very difficult in dialogue situations to try and get the player away from making just the dark side and light side choice. I mean, like in some instances they wouldn't even care that much about the context. They would just go, okay, well, what's the light side response here? And in that instance, that feels like it's doing the narrative a disservice because the player's not even thinking about the situation they're involved with. They're just thinking about, how do I get more light side or dark side points? Wasteland avoids that issue by going, you know what? We don't have a morality system like that. You can approach each situation as an individual and make an individual choice for that situation that is just you role-playing. That is a decision you want to make. And there might be consequences of doing that, but you're able to sort of take that situation and not worry about bad karma, good karma, or light side, dark side. It's just like you can focus on the situation. Just think, well, what should I do here, or what do I feel like doing? And then just accept the consequences thereon.
So all that's left to ask yourself is, how are you going to play Wasteland 2? Or perhaps more importantly, are you prepared to deal with the consequences?